What's up, amigos? It's the Prodigy Maker Minute with yours truly, Chris Lewitt. As you may know, I'm the former #1 for Cornell University, pro circuit player, elite junior development coach, and author and educator, author of The Secrets of Spanish Tennis and the Tennis Technique Bible. On this Prodigy Maker Minute, I want to talk about excuses and how I always teach my players that champions don't make excuses. And people love to make excuses. Tennis players love to make excuses. My students love to make excuses. I would hope they've learned by now that to make that stop, to stop those thought patterns in their brains. But this is something that Rock Macy, the legendary, maybe our one of our last, now that with Bollettieri passing, Rock Macy maybe is the most legendary American coach, maybe along with Robert Lansdorp. But Macy's still really coaching actively, talks about that a lot, talked about it in his book, wonderful book, Macy Magic. Highly recommend that as a good psychological read for tennis. Rick talks a lot about how champions don't make excuses and that champions always find a way. And I'm a big believer in that. I believe that wholeheartedly. I try to preach that and teach that to my students as well. Toni Nadal, I've been studying a lot of the wisdom of Toni Nadal, and he talks about the same sort of concept. Lots of great coaches talk about this, but particularly the Spanish wisdom of Toni Nadal, where he says, excuses never won us a match. He always talks about how he always taught Rafa not to make excuses for how Rafa played. There's this great Toni Nadal story that he tells in one of his teaching courses for coaches that I took. And he talks about how Rafa one time at a junior tournament was playing with a broken racket. The racket was cracked and Rafa was playing really badly. And, Toni came over. Rafa lost the first set and Toni came over to watch and see what was going on. He said the racket is cracked. He was with some others observing the match, and Rafa didn't know that the racket was broken. He was missing a lot of shots. So Toni went up to him in the second set and said, "Hey, Rafa, you got to change rackets. Your racket's broken." And Rafa said, "Okay." And he switched rackets, and I think this was like a junior national in Spain, or maybe an ITF tournament. And Rafa started to slowly come back and almost won the match, but still lost the match. So he lost the match in a pretty big tournament because he didn't realize that his racket was broken. And so Toni came up to Rafa after the match and said, "Rafa, how can this be? You're a very experienced player. You're a very good player. You have a lot of experience. How can you not know that your racket is broken?" And Rafa said to him that, "Uncle Toni, you've trained me overall so many years that not to blame anyone but myself, not to make excuses, that it was only myself to blame for playing poorly. It never even occurred to me to blame my racket." And I think that kind of mindset is wonderful and very very typical of sort of the character building that they like to teach in Spain, and certainly the Toni Nadal method, the method of building good character. Never blaming others, always taking responsibility for when things go badly. And that's basically what that short story tells, that famous story of Rafa Nadal as a teenager playing with a broken racket because he just couldn't imagine that there was anyone else to blame but himself. So, this is what Rock Macy talks about, champion's mind, what Toni Nadal talks about. And I wanted you guys just to share that little pearl of wisdom with you guys, and leave a comment if you have any good stories yourself about not making excuses. But man, juniors love to play the blame game. And if that's something you can help them with as a high performance coach or as a parent, if you can train your kid to not play the blame game, to be responsible, to take responsibility. That's good for tennis and also good for life. If they want to have a good job someday, if they want to be successful in business or industry or whatever they want to do, that's a very good quality to have. Don't play the blame game. Take responsibility. I teach that to my kids all the time. So I think some of the best parents that I work with, they're automatically working on that with their students. But for some reason, if a kid comes to me who hasn't had that home training from in their family, for whatever reason they missed that lesson, I will definitely try to help them with that. But what a great story from Uncle Tony. I'll try to come up with I gotta think of some more stories from Tony, and I'll try to share them with you on future episodes. Guys, I'll see you on the next program.